Good evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order and start with an apology to the people who have taken the time to attend the meeting. We are doing our best to get better about being timely, but we haven't quite mastered that yet. So we'll go to number 2 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Seeing none, we'll have a motion to approve the agenda, please. Trustee Noble, second by Trustee Barnes. All in favor? Carried. That brings us to a report from the Committee of the Whole in camera.
I've got another full copy if you need this.
Sorry, Trustee Thatcher.
The board approved the actions of the Committee of the Whole in camera and discussed administrative transfers and placement and personnel issues. This is my report, Trustee Lundquist.
Thank you, Trustee Thatcher. That will take us to presentations. We have no community presentations tonight, so we'll move to DDSB presentations, and we'll start with item 6A, Durham Continuing Education, with a report from Superintendent Stephen Nevels, please.
Good evening, and through you, Madam Chair, it is my pleasure to welcome Alex Toulis, the Principal of Durham Continuing Education, who will bring you a presentation tonight which highlights the information that can be found on pages 1 through 6 of your agenda. We're very proud of the achievements of Durham Continuing Education and are excited to share this with you this evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, trustees. It's my honor and pleasure to be here today. I'm just going to go over, do a quick presentation and overview the services that we provide at Durham Continuing Education and the types of programs and the types of students that we attract to our building. Our mission statement is transforming lives and strengthening communities. Last year we provided services to over 11,000 learners, which range from toddlers all the way up to adults, and in order to meet their education and employment goals. So in broad terms, who do we serve? We definitely serve adults who are seeking credits in high school and to complete credits in high school, whether that's to complete high school itself, whether to upgrade marks in order to apply to college or university, or even if you earned high school credentials in another country and wish to upgrade it and make it align with Ontario OSSD. So that's one broad category in terms of adult credits. We also offer non-credit courses for adults, and in particular those who might have had some barriers in achieving their training or employment goals, where personal circumstances may have put them in a position where they were unable to move forward in those areas. And we offer programs that also attract what we call adult upgrading program for those who might have been out of the education system for a while, been employed and laid off, and now want to get back into school, but are not completely ready for high school, so it's sort of a transition program for adults. Of course, we also offer programs for newcomers to Canada, and this is one of our biggest programs that helps them learn English so they can make a more easily transition into Canadian life. We also offer programs for newcomers in order to gain a Canadian work experience where they may have been professionally trained in other countries, and we are providing with that opportunity to gain co-op experience and integrate into Canadian workforce. And for some of our eligible newcomers, we also provide childcare so that they can attend language courses while their children are in our childcare, and also they are learning English and adapting to the Canadian life. We service secondary students through a variety of programs, which I'll be talking about. Those secondary students may be wishing to earn additional credits or taking credits that are not available in their high school, or they want to upgrade and pass credits that they had previously failed. We also understand that literacy and numeracy are a strong foundation of student success, and we offer literacy and numeracy non-credit courses to support those skills for elementary and secondary students. And finally, there are programs that are designed to teach students new languages or learn languages that are part of their heritage. For example, Greek language and Malayalam that are offered through night school for elementary. What I'd like to do right now is just show you a quick video and have our students speak to their experiences.
Have you been out of school for a while? Are you an adult who wants to complete high school credits but are unsure about going back to school and making the commitment? Durham Continuing Education has a program for you.
I used Durham Continuing Education because I wanted to find a place where I could be comfortable around other adults. I didn't want to go to a different school where there's younger people than me.
I used to work in group homes, and I'm transitioning into office, so I wanted to update my computer skills.
For the past 25 years, Durham Continuing Education has helped transform the lives of more than 100,000 students. Whether you are upgrading your skills to earn your high school diploma or working towards your chosen career, Durham Continuing Education has a variety of programs available to suit your individual needs.
There are so many options at Durham Continuing Education, from hospitality to building maintenance to the office worker pathway program. I was really drawn to the high school credit program because I needed to get my diploma to move on to college.
Durham Continuing Education fosters a comfortable, supportive, and accepting learning environment where you will be treated like an adult. More than a dozen programs including adult day school, building maintenance and environmental services, hospitality and office assistant pathway programs, as well as English as a second language, enhanced language training for foreign professionals, and credit prep courses are taught by dedicated, experienced teachers and instructors who provide high-quality instruction.
The teachers and guidance are excellent, like the best teachers I've had in my life.
It's hard going back to school when you've been out for a while, and they make it really easy to do that.
At Durham Continuing Education, we understand that it is not easy to go back to school while working and raising a family. We offer numerous learning options that fit your schedule, including e-learning, available 24/7, plus day school, correspondence courses, and night school.
Oh, the hours are so easy. Right now, it's, I got time in the morning to do stuff. The courses mostly are only a couple of hours a day, which is really simple on my life.
I mean, they offer night classes you can do afternoon. For me, I'm doing full-time in the morning because I have it available right now, but it can suit pretty much anybody in any walk of life.
Durham Continuing Education inspires students to focus on their future, lead in their communities, and to succeed in their lives. The credits you earn are just like any other Ontario high school credit and will be recognized and accepted by post-secondary institutions. At Durham Continuing Education, students find confidence, independence, and preparation for the future.
I feel Durham Continuing Education is preparing me for the future because it's helping me grow as a person. I've learned many other skills that I wouldn't have got just being on the street.
Anybody, everybody can come here. It fits every single person, from 17 years old until 99 years old. It doesn't matter who you are, you would fit in.
Durham Continuing Education is
hope,
empowering,
a stepping stone,
Strength. Life-changing.
Durham Continuing Education is inviting.
is vital.
It's an opportunity.
Durham Continuing Education is the key to success.
with new terms starting every 9 weeks. What are you waiting for?
Okay, so that was just a short video about some of our programs. And in order to meet the diverse learning needs of adult learners as well as secondary and elementary schools, we do offer quite a range of programs that fit the lifestyles and circumstances of our clients. And if one were to visit dce.ca and in our About section, we do have a description of all of our programs. There are many that I can talk about, but key is adult day school, and that is, those are classes that run during the day, in the morning and afternoon. We offer a variety of credits that often our adult learners need in order to upgrade, complete high school, or go to university or college if they hadn't taken a certain course. We also take into consideration prior learning recognitions. So if a student had come to us after working for several years, we can find opportunities to link that work experience to credits earned. So sometimes that challenge of earning your high school diploma might look daunting at the beginning, but after applying what we call PLAR, prior learning assessment and review, and flexible credits, it's a lot closer than they think, and the goals can be achievable. We spoke about the adult upgrading course for those individuals who might need a sort of a transition into taking high school credits. We offer pathway courses where high school credits can lead directly into a specific occupation. So we have several of those, building maintenance, hospitality, logistics, and distribution, which take advantage of the vast number of warehousing and trucking facilities along the 401 corridor. Cooperative education, experiential learning. For students who already have a job and are employed, there are opportunities from time to time to take those employment opportunities and convert them into credits where appropriate. Correspondence courses for those who may not be able to make it to school every day. So those are packages that they can work on at home and receive tutoring once a week if they choose to come to the school. E-learning is another option, again, for those who may be restricted, either geographically or preferred learning style. And as you can see here, English learning, that is one of our most popular courses. We offer courses that are under LINC and ESL. ESL is funded by the Ontario government, and LINC is through the federal government. And along with that, childcare for eligible English language learners that allow them to take the courses while their children are being looked after. So we can talk about language apprenticeship programs, where again we're talking about foreign trained apprentices that may not have a foot in the door in the Canadian workforce. We give them that opportunity. We find placements, and hopefully that leads to permanent employment. So not to forget night school, another big program, again appealing to both adults and secondary school students. We offer programs in the north because we often understand that it's difficult for students and our clients to make it down to the southern portion of Durham. So we offer programs in Brock High School, Uxbridge, Port Perry, to make it equitable and accessible to the north as well. Summer school is one of our biggest programs with over 5,000 credits achieved last year. And again, one of the key things about summer school is that students who fail courses during the regular school are able to recover. And it's particularly important, particularly in grade 9, if a student were unsuccessful in one course that they only earned 7 out of 8. If we can get them to have earned 8 out of 8 by taking the summer school courses, their chances of graduating on time increase dramatically. So it's a very, very important program for student success. And as you can see here, summer school has a variety of different programs. And so that's just a sort of a broad overview of our programming. And I also wanted to mention that we do from time to time seek out special funding regarding emerging circumstances in our community. So for example, we've recently applied to the what we call a rapid skills micro-credential supported through the Ontario government. And our proposal is to partner with the Ontario Trucking Training Center, which is going to provide training on acquiring AZ or DZ licensing. Or where we come into play is attracting recently laid off employees from the auto sector, which is a very big issue, as you know, in the Oshawa area. And we want to attract those individuals, bring them into our school, provide them with some basic training to get them ready to be successful and perhaps transitioning to another career. So from time to time, we will apply for grants to the government to address emerging needs as well. So that's really an overview. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I don't see questions. Oh, yes, I do. So we'll go to Trustee Barnes.
Thank you. That is actually very, very encouraging to see the offering that we have for our courses and programming. And I just wanted to check, I'm a very big supporter of the summer program. I think it gives kids a second chance to really catch up on something that they've missed out during the year.
Right.
I know you have something with the trades, but I wonder if there was any plans to grow that portion or expand that portion of the offering under that.
Yeah, so what we have right now is we offer what we call pathway programs that combine secondary courses that lead to employment, whether it be in office administration or logistics, which is really around managing warehouses and so on and so forth. We also partner with Employment Ontario to connect our English language learners with Canadian experience. With the trades in terms of apprenticeships and so on, we could be looking at the Student Success Connections through your department, Mr. Neville's as well, because we do know that there's an there's a large demand for the skilled trades. And what we try to do is we've reached out to industries where there are significant layoffs in order to attract those individuals to come back to school. If they need a high school credit, for example, to get into a specific trade or apprenticeship program, we're sort of we can offer that service. So that's where we fit in right now.
So I don't see further questions, so I would just say that it's hard not to be impressed by the breadth and depth and scope of the program. It's clear to me that what you're doing is going to change lives, and it's going to change lives in a very significant way. And so it's hard to say that without expressing some concern about the impact potentially of funding and what's coming. So let's hope we see the funding that you need to keep changing the lives
Thank you very much.
and allow you to keep doing the work you do. So thank you for everything you're doing. We all deeply appreciate it. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
So we'll move on to DDSB presentation 6B, leveraging digital update with Superintendent Jamila Miliha.
Good evening. Through you, Chair Lundquist. The report can be found on pages 7 through 13 of your agenda. The purpose of this report is to inform the Board of Trustees of the current state of the DDSB Leveraging Digital Initiative within the Innovation Strategic Priority. We are currently in the third year of the Leveraging Digital Initiative, and measurable success has been achieved in providing modern, collaborative, student-centered tools and learning spaces to the students and staff of the DDSB. Both the Innovation and Information Technology Services departments have focused on three main themes for this update: interdepartmental projects, professional learning resources, and the support and training of staff with respect to hardware and software. We are very excited to share this update with you this evening. Now we would like to welcome Warren Palmer, Principal of Brooklyn High School, Tim Ralph, Innovation Education Officer, and David Rule, Chief Technology Officer.
Thank you.
Thank you, trustees. Thank you for having us today. We are excited to present a little bit of what's been happening around the district with respect to leveraging digital. And as our superintendent mentioned, we're going to be focusing on three main foci tonight. One is the collaboration and interdepartmental sharing that's been going on as we leverage digital. One is the provision of professional learning. Thank you. And one is the support and training of hardware and software that we've been doing here in the district.
One of the key characteristics of our two departments is the collaborative nature of our work. In the past year, the Innovative and IT Services departments have partnered with every other department in the board to co-create innovative solutions.
One of our most recent examples of this collaboration here tonight, Mr. Blake in the corner, is our work behind the scenes, ITS and Innovative Services working on Spark, which communications rolled out this past week, which is our new staff portal. It was rolled out successfully. Communications should be extremely proud of what they did on that project, and we were very excited to be invited as part of that project to work with ITS to build underneath a really robust, rich way of sharing the many Google and Microsoft documents that are out there for our 7,000 employees. This example is one where our department, working with our IT partners, our cousins, are able to bring together solutions to help things work so much better for our students and staff.
Another example of this collaboration is how IT Services has been working very collaboratively with our Inclusive Student Services team. They've been deploying one-to-one devices for their students for years, and through, as we rolled out the Chromebook initiative, we were able to partner with them to really consolidate the experience for all of our students to ensure that we are deploying technologies in an equitable manner across the board. This is accomplished through the coordination of processes and leveraging our resources in a unified goal of ensuring that our most vulnerable students are provided the tools that they need, including Chromebooks and Google Read Write.
As you may recall, last time we visited you and brought an update, we talked a little bit about the launch of our Professional Learning Hub. Built on the D2L e-learning platform, this staff resource now has over 130 courses for all of our staff in the system, workshops and learning resources. And when an employee logs into the system now, they see courses and workshops that are specific to their needs and just for them. As you can see from the slide above, we now have 15 different departments working on the Professional Learning Hub, and we have more than 15,000 completed credits already since September. So those are staff that have finished workshops and courses online during the day or when they find it most convenient. So we're very excited that the Hub has become such an important place for our staff to go to find the most recent up-to-date resources for them.
With the increased importance of the focus on leveraging digital within the board and the increased role of technology and student learning, it was time to bring the support that IT Services brings to all the staff and students of the board into the 21st century. And with that, last April, we launched our new service portal, ServiceNow. Within this service portal, we're able to offer a more directed and supported support model for our teachers and, staff and students through three major ways. The first is through a knowledge base. There's now an accessible knowledge base where our staff and students, or our staff, are able to enter and find answers, ask questions, and pull up resources to help support them in resolving issues. If they can't find the answer there, there's still the old help ticket or incident that they can put in if something is broken or needs to be fixed or anything like that. And the last one is a service request. So instead of, there are many instances where you need access to a system you don't have access to, or you need to order a particular thing. That can now be done through a service portal, which has a lot of automated workflows in the background to make the process more streamlined and increase the efficiency of the support that we can offer.
As you know, this is our third year of our Chromebook rollout. We've completed rolling out Chromebooks to all of our students, grades 7 through 12. We've trained staff in all of those schools, and this is our first year of going deeper and finding ways for staff to collaborate, to work together, and for our principals to work with their staffs, leveraging digital to find efficiencies in their teaching and learning. And so today, we brought a video along to show you, and in that video is Mr. Palmer. And Mr. Palmer's here, and he's going to talk a little bit about it as well. And this is a little bit of an exploration about how leveraging digital has affected leadership at Brooklyn High School. Come with me.
Well, we are Brooklyn High School, and we're about 1,300 students, 1,320, and we have 86 teaching staff, other support staff, and I would suggest we were a suburban, large secondary school, and we do very well academically and socially. We have a great school culture, and we're very proud of what we do here at Brooklyn High School. In a large secondary school, things are organized by departments, by disciplines. For instance, we have 12 different departments, different locations in the building, and if you don't create structures where they can collaborate and share best practices, they may never even see each other or even notice they're in the building together because there's 85 of them. So it's important that you set up structures that create that collegialism and opportunity to collaborate. So one of the things that we focused in on is leveraging digital technology. It's part of our board improvement plan. It's part of our school improvement plan. And we have since moved to a one-to-one Chromebook model, which is really exciting for students, but also our staff have really picked up on it and are excited to implement. So what we do is in our staff meetings, we've created a framework where for the first 20 minutes we call it Collaboration Corner. Our focus has been on leveraging digital, and so we'll have a staff member share a best practice. Let's say, for instance, they're working on Google Sites and they're getting students to create websites, so that we would share that, and then we would move into our liaison groups, cross-departmental, where we strategically design these groups so they're not in the same department. And so there's 14 different liaison groups, and they all post information on the question that we give them, like how are you going to use Google Sites in your classroom? And so they'll have all kinds of ideas to go back to at a later time. So that's one way where we're building collective efficacy, leveraging digital as sort of the driver or the engine, and then having staff get to know each other, having staff talk about their issue in geography, their issue in technological studies, their issue in English class, and then there's 6 or 7 of them together in the one group talking about leveraging digital technology. Once we've started this process where we're talking about leveraging digital technology, we've seen a shift in what teachers are doing in the classroom. One of the things we did do in our collaboration corner was talk about the SAMR model of technology. We're having one-to-one Chromebooks coming. We need to substitute, augment, modify, but let's redefine what we're doing in the teaching practice with our technology, with the students. And it's great. Automatically, students are engaged, and we'll see as we walk around the school, lots of Chromebooks are being used. And that's one thing. But we're trying to move to empowerment. And so we have teachers that have moved ahead, and they're hard to keep up with. They're accelerating the process. And they're more interested in having students using their devices to empower their own learning. So they're going out and finding information on their own. They're creating new findings and new learnings on their own. They're coming back and communicating their findings and solutions to problems. And so the teachers are moving from that sage on the stage piece where they're at, lecturing from the front. They're moving to the side. I think that has increased student engagement. It's increased teacher engagement, and teachers are now starting to blend their learning environments, and we've seen that shift in a positive way. And we're starting to see a shift and an increase in student achievement because there's increase in student engagement.
Terribly uncomfortable to see yourself on the big screen.
Okay, I just have 3 points. I won't keep you much longer. First of all, why the video was made, there was an education delegation coming from Norway, and they were interested in how Durham District School Board set up structures to have secondary teachers collaborate. So that's why we made the video. I was coerced into doing that. But honestly, it's the structure that you've seen there in place is really just modeling what we want to see in our classrooms. And not that I want to use secondary teachers as guinea pigs, but generally the idea was to show them that you can get together in groups, you can share information together, and really accelerate the learning process when you throw technology in there. And that's some of the work that we've been looking at is Michael Fullen's work, where he knows or has studied and understands that technology accelerates the learning process, specifically when you're focused in on global competencies of critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity. And when we go around and do our walkthroughs and we do our teacher performance appraisals, I'm always very mindful of looking just for those very activities that allow our students to practice very, very important skills in global competencies. And when we, like as I said, when we throw in technology, it accelerates that process. And just the last point, the third point, I just wanted to talk about some work that recently has come out from George Couros called Innovate Inside the Box. And I do have a very creative staff, and often I'm finding them coming down with such creative ideas, there's no way we can implement any of them. So I'm often reminding them that, yes, we want to be imaginative and creative, but we have to do it within the system and within the structure and within my budget. But I've often, and these gentlemen will tell you, I'm often emailing these two behind me with some really interesting questions and getting brushed off the plate several times. But that's okay. Those are learnings for us as a system. And as I said to you, our teachers at Brooklyn High School are very fortunate to be a newer high school, and they are very innovative in nature, but they're starting to understand they have to be so within the system and the structure that we have. So inside the box, not just always outside the box. Yeah, and that's what I have for you. I don't know if you have any questions or concerns, because Tim will be happy to answer them.
So thank you for that. We appreciate knowing that you're keenly aware of budgetary constraints. Also, couldn't help but notice that for someone who was coerced, you looked unusually comfortable in that video.
I think that's age, I'm not sure.
So we're going to go to Acting Director Marsh first.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I wanted to thank you for the presentation, in particular Principal Palmer and your entire staff that were featured in the video. And I have to say, as well, I watched the video, I reflected on the fine work that all of our staff were doing in it, and wanted to acknowledge that we're looking forward to a time when our staff can collaborate that way again, and recognize currently that the opportunities for collaboration in the current political landscape aren't there, and how much we respect our staff's right as far as their right to collective bargaining and the impact that that is having on opportunities for collaboration. So the video is very inspiring and a reminder to us of what we have to look forward to again, but did want to acknowledge that since the video has been shot and today there have been some changes occurring as far as the landscape, and wanted to make sure we acknowledge staff in that way. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Trustee Forbes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was really impressed with the changes that have been made in terms of collaboration, even the ease of getting service, because if you have a piece of technology that isn't working, it's not useful, but the easier and more quickly we can make it, the better. I did have a question about, in terms of the limitations of the Chromebooks, because we know there are some, and some of our high school programs might require software that isn't able to run on the Chromebook. And in terms of equity of access to all students, I'm just wondering, are we going through kind of our programs and making sure that we have Chromebook available options for our students?
The answer is the one-to-one Chromebooks are for general courses every day, what we'd be using. For any of our courses in secondary schools that require higher-end machines, AutoCAD, for example, contact classes, we do provide our secondary schools with computer labs of computers of that caliber that are able to support that program. And the communications technology teachers who support that program, the professional device that we provide to them is an upgraded version of the laptop that the rest of the staff get to help support those programs.
Okay. Thank you.
Trustee Barnes.
Thank you for the presentation. It has been quite the journey, and I've seen just from going into schools prior and after with the Chromebook rollout to see the difference in engagement in students and our teachers. And I'm very proud of the out-of-the-box thinking that has occurred within our teachers and within some of our students in regards to owning and facilitating some of their own learning. So I'm very, very happy about this, and I hope we continue to grow the program, and I look forward to our next steps on that. Thank you again.
We're going to go to Trustee Thatcher.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lundquist. I don't know if this is the right time for my question, but I had the opportunity a couple of weeks ago to visit two amazing grade 4 classes at Winchester Public School, who were very eager to show me that they only had a very few laptop computers in their classroom, and we're wondering when the rollout would continue. And when they would, I said I would pass that question along. Can you help me with this?
The model that's out there is that all of our classrooms from grades 2 to 6 have a cart of 6 Chromebooks in them, and the idea is that at those levels the research has showed that collaborative learning together in groups with a device is very effective, and in situations where that isn't, the collaborative nature of the school and the staff within the school to share those devices, to pool them together when they need them on an as-needs basis is what the allocation is at this point.
Near future. Sorry, I'm on. So nothing in the near future. Is that it?
So we are actually reviewing every year, and we sent out a review to all of our elementary colleagues, principal colleagues, asking them what is age and stage appropriate. As an elementary principal, I can say that we're very targeted and specific with our principals and our teachers when we train to ensure as well that we're exposing our students to print and cursive and printing and paper because we're still using that as well. So we are reviewing, and we have been looking at our iPads in kindergarten and grade 1. And when is it appropriate to move forward, but there's no immediate move to roll back beyond grade 7 at this time, but it is something we do review annually. We actually just did our first review.
Thank you. I'll pass that along.
Thank you.
We're going to return to Trustee Barnes.
All right, I just had a follow-up. You mentioned that there were 15 departments that were on for. Is that all our departments, or is there some departments that are still not on?
I think it is, and we use the number 15 when we look down who's offering all of these workshops, but I'll be honest with you, some of our departments are departments within themselves. So, for instance, recruitment, which is part of employee services, they're counted twice. So I would say yes. I can't think of any departments that are not offering courses online right now. Facilities and health and safety are on fire with courses. We can't keep up with them. So I would say yes, all our major departments are absolutely offering courses, and then their subunits now within are kind of fighting to get in the door. So yes, I would say that's true.
I see no further questions, but I, of course, have one. So on page 9, there is reference to metrics, really, and it's about deployment and communications and high appreciation for the way that's being done. But on that same page, it says, in the same survey, 82% of respondents identified Chromebooks as having a positive impact on student learning. Are we talking about just principals, or are we talking about teachers and students? Who is in that number?
Yeah, so that was teachers and principals for that survey.
Okay.
We didn't survey students for that one. So after that rollout, we went back to all of those teachers, and they had the option to respond or not. And so that's principals and teachers responding to that one.
Okay, and have we posed that question to students at any stage?
We did. You can speak to that one. Sure.
There was a survey after the first year of deployment of the Chromebooks. I did ask that question, and I think we had a sample size of about 6,000 results. I don't have the percentages on me, but we do have that information.
I'm not that demanding, I swear. But I would like to, I'm just curious about what that looks like from a student perspective as well. So if we could get that at some stage, that would be great.
Sure.
So I can just respond to that quickly, Chair Lundquist. We do have those results, and I can get that to you via email, and I can send it to the rest of the board as well.
Thank you. I think it's just helpful to see it from all sides in terms of what students and teachers and principals and other administrators alike think is working or not working, and potentially why. So I would appreciate that. Thank you. That was an excellent presentation. We appreciate all of your time and your acting skills, and we appreciate all of the work you're doing in our schools to support the students. Thank you. So that brings us to item 7 on the agenda, recommended actions, district-wide FSL program review with Superintendent Margaret Lazarus.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lundquist. The report can be found starting on page 14 of your agenda. Tonight, I am bringing forward this report to seek your approval on the scope of the district-wide review of French as a second language programs, core French, and French immersion. The review will examine the following: existing policy and practice, provincial trends and experiences, program viability, lived experiences of students, parents, and guardians as they interact with the core French and French immersion programs, resource implications in terms of staffing, facility and finance, patterns and trends in enrollment, retention, attrition, student demographics, equity of programming, access to the Diplôme d'études dans langue française, that's the DELF exam. And this review will provide recommendations to inform access, organization, and resource allocations for FSL programming within the district. So I present this report this evening for your approval on the overview for the French as a second language program review. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustees, who have questions or comments about the scope of that? So we'll go to Trustee Edwards first.
I'm glad that you're talking about equity, but are we also going to actually specifically look at the impact of students with special needs to ensure that as far as their needs being met or being moved over to other schools because their school has been moved, or resources available in the French language?
100%. We're looking at all aspects of the French programming, and we have a subcommittee that's looking at equity of access.
Okay, we'll go to Trustee Barnes.
Thank you. That's a very broad scope and very detailed. I'm wondering if you do think that we have enough on that timeline to get that completed?
We have looked at the timeline, and we are pressing forward, and we have already started the work, and we expect to have a report for you in October.
Okay, I see no further questions, so I'm looking for a motion to approve, I guess, the scope of the review of the FSL program. So we'll have a motion from Trustee Barnes. Second. Trustee Thatcher. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. It is ambitious. I will give you that. It's ambitious. I like ambitious, though, so that's great.
So do I.
7B on the agenda, correspondence to the Minister of Education. So we'll go to Chris Brainy. The material is found at page 20 of your materials.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The letter before us this evening is a letter that I would like to have sent on behalf of our board to the Ministry of Education tomorrow. As other boards have throughout the province, I think it's important that the DDSB also encourage the province to get back to the bargaining table and seek a fair deal for public education. There's a number of concerns that we have certainly been voiced by trustees around this table that I've certainly tried to capture within this letter. However, I'm certainly open to any suggestions. I know that there's been a couple regarding maybe enhancing our ask on e-learning and also class sizes. However, I'm open to the floor to seek approval and also to make any additions that you would like me to make to this letter before it's sent to the ministry.
Thank you. We'll go to Trustee Morton.
Thank you, and through you. I completely agree that we need to send a letter to Minister Lecce regarding our concerns. However, I would like to see some changes made to the letter. Firstly, we recognize in the third paragraph that we object to the mandatory e-learning courses. But why aren't we also including a paragraph addressing our other concerns? So I think that we should also have included discussion around maintaining class sizes, additional supports for our children with special education needs, and maintaining kindergarten class as they are now, staffed with a teacher and an ECE. Please also consider reworking that final paragraph. E-learning is important, but it is not our only consideration. We have a responsibility to promote student achievement as well as student well-being. That's emotional, physical, and social well-being. So all of our children matter, so we need to remind all parties that we should be coming to the table and we should be bargaining in good faith. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Morton. We'll go to Trustee Forbes.
Thank you, Chair Lundquist. I wanted to share very similar comments. I do like the letter. I'm glad that we're voicing our concerns and the concerns of our families and our students. And I would agree that I would like to see some, I mean, it's very important. We can't address these other issues like e-learning, class sizes, supports for special education, maintaining our ECE teacher combination in JK. So I would really, if we're going to expand, I think it would be good to touch on those points, and I've definitely heard those concerns echoed to me by our constituents, so I would be in favor of adding those items. And I would like to suggest that we also copy OBSPA on it. I'm not sure. Yes, it's there. They're there. So that would be, those are my only suggestions, but thank you for taking this initiative.
Thank you, Trustee Forbes. We'll go to Trustee Barnes.
Thank you. I support the letter as well. I just think that we should encourage all parties to return to the table and to have these discussions around a strong and healthy education system. We do have a letter that we sent out prior in December that I think we could probably do that listing of concerns that were listed there. I think that would cover a wide variety of topics that we had concerns about through there. So I think we could probably wordsmith that a bit to include some of that.
Okay, so we'll go to Trustee Noble.
I do agree with adding paragraphs around class size like I did in kindergarten, just because they are also important. I don't think it would hurt to re-forward our letter from December, especially the ones that was directed by the student trustees, as Trustee Tyler West had kind of urged us to do regarding e-learning, especially from the Student Senate. I do think it's important to focus towards the government, though, as we know that they are the ones that are not sitting at the table right now. We see it in the news, we see it a lot in media, and it's important to recognize that just a few weeks ago, we had the largest Ontario education strike since 1997, and that speaks a lot of volume as to what's going on right now and just in the political climate.
Thank you, Trustee Noble. Trustee Edwards.
I agree with some of the concerns as well as what's saying, but I really think that we should be highlighting a bit of the impact of what the lack of progress, and I wouldn't say standstill because we have one agreement from one union that has happened and another. So I just, the negotiating process is ever standing. So I would say that it's more of a lack of progress and the impact of that lack of progress, especially that we have what's coming up with staffing is concerned, and that we're trying to plan and budget around staffing, and it's impossible to do. We're having to put a range of contingency plan, but the anxiety that brings along with our staffing as well as our students and what's going to happen. So I think that we should also, with our other concerns that we've listed before, but what the impact of the slow negotiations is having on not only this year but the next year and planning for next year. I think that's really key, just to urge them to, you know, get back and negotiate a little bit faster in earnest.
Thank you, Trustee Edwards. We're going to go to Trustee Templeton.
I agree with what Trustee Morton mentioned there with the class size, special education, everything that we've mentioned before, and I agree with Patrice. We can add that actual first letter we sent and include it in the package. I just wanted to, on the last paragraph, I just wanted to come up with something. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I implore you to have your agents return to the bargaining table for meaningful conversations, and that they commence with the, I would drop the rest and just say the bargaining process, because we're trying to include everything instead of just keeping focus on one mandatory e-learning. We want everything in one paragraph, and then just to continue with the bargaining process.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Templeton. We're going to go to Trustee Thatcher.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lundquist. I think everything's pretty well been covered, and I absolutely agree with all of those issues. We do appreciate having e-learning as one of our programs, but we just don't like the compulsory piece. It doesn't work for us as a board. We're just not a one-size-fits-all board. And also in terms of class sizes and kindergarten, I believe that the kindergarten is working well as it is with a teacher and DECE person in the classroom. I think that it's not only the trustees here at the board who are saying these things. I think that we're hearing far and wide great support from parents, which I think is something that also, and I think they're making their voice heard, but it's certainly something that is really gives support to sending this letter. So yes, I agree with that as well.
Thank you, Trustee Thatcher. We'll go back to Trustee Barnes, unless there's anyone who hasn't spoken yet who would like to. Okay, Trustee Barnes.
I just want to remind the board that we do have OPSPA that has listed these concerns that with the ministry as they sit at the bargaining table. So when we are putting that letter through, it's really in support of what has already been advocated for.
Well, we may not all see eye to eye on that, but we don't need to for the purpose of this, I don't think. So I think what I've heard, and I'm going to try to summarize it, is a letter be sent by, I guess what I'm looking for is a motion, if this is the desire of the trustees, to send a letter to the Minister of Education that reflects slow progress at the bargaining table not being adequate, that expresses concerns about e-learning, special education supports being maintained, maintenance of class sizes, protection of full-day kindergarten, including appropriately staffed full-day kindergarten. And if I've missed something, I'm happy to...
Student and staff well-being.
And student and staff well-being? Okay. And since it's Chair Brainey's letter, I'm just going to turn to him to see if he is accepting of those changes to his letter.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm accepting of it, even though I'll pen it and send it on behalf of the board. I view it as the board's letter. It's not just for me, so it's...
It is the board's letter, no doubt. So can we get a motion to send such a letter? So we'll go with Trustee Morton and a seconder. Trustee Forbes, all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. That will take us to item 8, information items, student trustee report. I don't know which one we're going to first. Trustee Meseret.
Good evening. It's with pleasure that I will be giving an update about Ostaego. So I just want to kind of start off by noting that as an education system, we have understood that there have been inherent issues with the equitableness of our programs for years. We've seen the achievement gap for racialized backgrounds, students that come from racialized backgrounds, the inequalities that students with special needs have had to overcome, the challenges students from northern or geographic areas have had to contend with, and the challenges that overall students have had to overcome. And for years, even within education advocacy, these topics have been discussed but have not been fundamentally the focus. This is why it is with exceptional elation that I have the distinct pleasure of announcing that Ostaego is embarking on developing the first in its history Barriers to Education Equity Report. This report will put at the forefront the concerns regarding equity in education that have been apparent for so long, especially pertaining to 3 key areas: geography, special education, and representation. The report we are creating has 3 fundamental phases. Primarily starting with data collection. So this afternoon, Ostaego released surveys to students across the province asking a variety of questions such as how their culture has been represented in the curriculum and education system, and how they felt that aspects of their identity or geographic location have impacted the opportunities available to them. Upon collecting data from what we presume to be thousands of students across Ontario, we will be releasing a report coming in late spring with key recommendations to our government and educational stakeholders, which are predicated on the challenges that students have faced within the education system. We will as well be engaging with media and key partners to be able to operationalize these key issues. The survey can be found at studentsurvey.ca and will be on all of Ostaego's social media. Ultimately, we believe that by gathering student voices, by gathering empirical evidence supporting the importance of equity in education, and gathering statistics and creating a clear precedent for change, we are providing evidence of the notions that we have known to be true for so long. We believe that this data collection, recommendations, and the fundamental focus that we have had will create a path forward for student advocacy and for equity in education as a whole. Our report is fundamentally about the barriers that exist in education, and the only way we as a society can move forward is to make sure that we bring as many people as possible along with us, and that starts with our education system.
I don't know who we're going to next. Okay, we're going to go to Trustee Wang.
Thank you. We were fortunate enough to attend the Board Council Conference in Ottawa with the Ontario Student Trustees Association last week. This conference brought together student trustees across the province to build on initiatives within their working committees and further develop their best practices. We heard from speakers such as Annie Kidder, who is a co-founder for People for Education, and engaged in sessions on communications and advocacy. We're looking forward to bringing our learning back to here at the board. And I'd also like to share that the Equity Committee from Student Senate has created an equity package for the month of March, which will be distributed to all high school student governments in the DDSB. It covers student perspective on Bangladeshi Heritage Month, World Down Syndrome Day, as well as International Women's Day. I'd like to recognize the dedication these students have for promoting diverse student identity. And I'll pass it off to Tyler.
Thank you. Trustee West.
To conclude our Senate report, today in Senate we discussed the board policy currently on the table of service animals in schools, and we collected student input on that going forward. We worked on social media engagement for senators for best promoting student voice online. Our working committees of student voice, equity, and well-being met, and our regional committees of Uxbridge, Scugog and Brock, Pickering and Ajax, and Oshawa and Whitby also met. And I also want to take this opportunity to shout out Uxbridge Secondary School for hosting an awesome volunteer fair at their school, and the student senators wanted to thank their guidance staff for the excellent job they did in bringing in community partners to provide students with opportunity for volunteerism. That concludes our report.
Thank you, Trustee West. We'll go to Trustee Edwards.
I applaud doing this student survey and looking forward to the results. I mean, both the several reports that Ostaego has put together has been phenomenal as far as, and you've managed to collect data, a lot more data than has been done really across the province. So just a question around when you're collecting data, two questions. One is, are you going to have identification data collected while you're doing that to ensure that you have the representation that you're trying to get across, especially around equity, as well as then what are the three of you going to do to ensure maximum participation and the breadth of diversity of responses? Just wondering how you plan to do that.
Thank you, Trustee Edwards. We'll go to Trustee Messerett for a response.
Thank you so much, and both exceptionally important questions. So diving into the details and kind of the survey itself. So the survey is split up into 4 sections. The first section is talking about identity in and of itself. So we ask students, what school are you from? What grade are you in? What background do you feel reflects you? Are you someone who has an IEP? So we have a section that is completely dedicated to creating kind of an understanding of who the student is, and then there's 3 sections that are about geography, special education, and representation. And so the way that we structured it enables us to actually go back through the data and actually correlate points. So we can say, based on the students that live in, in a northern region, do we find that they also feel that they have access to resources, right? And so the reason that there's that initial point is so we can correlate any data point with the student identity itself. So we really try to ensure that we took that into consideration and we were able to actually gather, very useful data based on the identity of students. And then to the second point, which is talking about how we were going to engage in kind of engaging as many students as possible. So we've thought long and hard about the best way to go about something like this. We have an entire media team at Ostaego who's also devoted their time to this. But we've taken a very student-centered approach with this. So we're looking at engaging with social media as well. We've developed packages to be sent to student councils and individual students themselves. So student councils can have presentations and can have school announcements that we will send to them so they can put it up on their school announcements, they can share with their student councils, they can put it up on their social media. So we're engaging at as many kind of contact points as possible, right? Like the first time you hear about the survey, you may not fill it out, but if you hear about it 2 or 3 different times from 2 or 3 different sources, you may be more inclined to A, fill it out, and B, share it with a friend. And of course, we will be putting it on our social media, and we will be sure to, we'll be sure to share the word about the survey and, obviously try and collect as much data as possible. I hope that answered the questions, but if not, I'd be happy to elaborate if that's necessary.
That answers them. Thank you very much.
So we're going to go to Trustee Wang.
All right, I hate to jump in so suddenly, but at the start of our equity survey, we actually include this confidentiality disclaimer, part of which includes, please note that your responses are completely confidential and OSTA ACO will never directly associate a student with a specific response or single out a student taking the survey. We ask no questions throughout the survey that can directly identify your name, location, or contact information. It is impossible for responses in the survey to be linked to any personal identifiers, although we do retain that they're consenting to have information retained from marketing, some information and reproduce comments for marketing purposes. And we are actually in the process of being able to provide incentives such as gift cards and draws for that to gain more responses. So I hope that is a little more detail. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Somehow every time the student trustees speak, I feel less bleak about the world, which is good. So we're going to move on to item 8B, information item, Ignite Durham Learning Foundation report with Superintendent Jim Murkowski.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lundquist, the report can be found on page 22 of your package. The report this evening provides trustees with information on the development of the Ignite Durham Learning Foundation. Although the foundation operates independently of our board, the work is aligned to our core priorities within the Durham District School Board's Make a Difference poverty strategy. The foundation currently has an established board of directors that includes 3 DDSB ex officio members that are comprised of a trustee and 2 members of the senior team, along with 5 additional community members who are responsible for oversight and governance. The foundation has spent the last year establishing operating procedures and protocols. The stated mission, vision, and values have been developed along with bylaws, a code of conduct, board competencies, and a strategic plan outlining funding priorities. The foundation recently successfully submitted an application to the Canada Revenue Agency for charitable status and is awaiting the outcome of that review, which is anticipated to last approximately 6 months. And through its identified funds, the foundation will aim to provide children and students in need with resources to facilitate their full participation in school life, provide support for students in out-of-school programs, and provide support services and financial assistance to students in alignment to the foundation's mandate. The Board of Directors and staff of the Ignite Durham Learning Foundation invite you to attend our annual general meeting, which is scheduled to take place on the evening of April 7th here at the Durham District School Board. And although the foundation is still currently in its infancy, we're excited for our work in the months ahead and the opportunities that exist in supporting our most vulnerable students. As we continue to move along our path, we will provide you with additional updates. And that takes us to the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Do you have any comments, questions? I see none. I would just say the following, I think. Although I would prefer to see a sort of systemic governmental response to poverty, I recognize the importance of having measures in place to address what isn't being addressed. And I thank you for the work you're doing, and Trustee Barrett as well, because I know that he's been instrumental in pushing this forward. So thank you for that. So we're going to move to item 8C, Student Help Seeking Initiative, You Matter, It's Okay to Ask for Help, with Superintendent Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. The report can be found on pages 29 to 34 of your agenda package. The report provides trustees with information regarding our Student Help Seeking Initiative entitled You Matter, It's Okay to Ask for Help. The You Matter, It's Okay to Ask for Help initiative was created to encourage a culture of help seeking that ensures an environment where the mental well-being of all students is valued and fostered, and where help for those students in distress is seen as essential to helping students feel safe, accepted, and ready to learn. The initiatives consists of 2 components, the poster itself and the conversation guide. 5 copies of the elementary poster targeting intermediate students and 10 copies of the secondary versions of the posters were sent to schools. Please see appendices A and B for samples. Administrators worked with their staff to determine the high traffic volume areas within their schools for the posters to be posted for students to have easy viewing access. The second component of the initiative is the conversation guide. The conversation guide provides general guidelines for receiving and engaging with students who respond to the posters and approach staff to initiate a help-seeking conversation. The guides outline roles, expectations, and provide starter sentences and potential responses to students in distress. Administrators have reviewed and distributed the resources to all staff, and the mental health lead is available for consultation as needed on implementation considerations. This report is presented to trustees for information.
Thank you. We're going to go to Trustee Thatcher.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Lundquist. I completely understand the growing concerns around mental health issues in our schools. But I'm just wondering, how do you view this initiative as unique? I know that we have many initiatives currently in our schools and many opportunities for staff to communicate their concerns around mental health issues. So what additional benefits would be provided through this initiative? I know you mentioned resources. So that's the first question I have. And the second question is that I would be interested in learning more about the role of teachers, educational assistants, and DECEs in this initiative.
Through you, Madam Chair, this initiative is directed to students. So what we wanted to do as a part of our strategic plan in mental health and well-being is one part of our plan was around mattering. So the purpose of the initiative is that the students have within their schools, and in secondary schools, they're around the guidance area, around the office. In elementary schools, our target is grades 7 and 8, that it's just a reminder on the walls in the areas that they're important, and if they need help, the caring adults that are in their buildings are always available. So the purpose of the initiative is a gentle reminder that we support the students in terms of that, because we know through the research that a lot of 60% of our students who are in need of help don't often ask for that help, so we're giving them that gentle reminder that it is available. The conversation guide that was shared with the posters is for teachers and it names out all of the caring adults in the school who is available to support when needed. And the conversation guide was for teachers because their role is just to listen and direct the students to the appropriate resources and adults that can help them.
I'm just curious as to the timing of this. I mean, I definitely understand what you're saying about the listening part, but I'm just kind of curious about the when part.
Through you, Madam Chair, can you clarify your question for me, Trustee Thatcher?
When is there a certain time that teachers or educational assistants would have in order to spend time one-on-one with those students?
Okay. Through you, Madam Chair, the purpose of the poster is not necessarily for the teachers to be spending time, one-on-one time with the students for that purpose. It's to let the students know that there are caring adults in the building that they can talk to at any time. Once they've spoken to any caring adult, we have resources such as in secondary school guidance, we have our inclusive services, we have our social workers, we have other individuals to help them in more detail, but it's just a reminder to the students that everyone in the building, specifically named, is there to support their well-being as well as their academic being.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. We'll go to Trustee Morton.
Thank you, and through you. This is amazing. And in your conclusion, you say the student help-seeking initiative, You Matter, It's Okay to Ask for Help. But I think it's more than a student initiative, because It's Okay to Ask for Help has been with us for a number of years. We have targeted staff in the past as well as students. Are we still working with staff and saying it's okay to ask for help?
Madam Chair, through you, we actually have a part 2 to the initiative.
Good.
And it is directed to staff with the same key messages.
Thank you. We need that.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. We'll go to Trustee Forbes.
Thank you, Chair Lundquist. So I am also very happy to see the initiative to reach out to our students to make sure they know that everyone in our buildings are there for them. I guess my question is, when this was developed in terms of connecting with students to best learn what their needs are and how we can bridge it, because I think students know that they can probably talk to someone within their school. So I'm just wondering, did we engage with students in the development of this and where it's going to be deployed? And I imagine if we were, that would be an ongoing kind of conversation.
Through you, Madam Chair. So part of the initiative came through some of the data that we receive in our climate surveys in terms of where the students feel safe in those pieces. We also had our mental health lead took the initiative and then had conversations with our student trustees as well. And so we have just initiated the help-seeking campaign in February. So part of our work is also to follow up and physically to see that it's in the buildings, but also to ask questions around how that is supporting. And we also know that gentle reminders are really important in terms of asking for help. So we do consistently, as the caring adults in the building, support our students, but it doesn't hurt to have a poster when you walk in the door or near the office as a reminder in terms of the people who are there to support. But we will continue to collect that data, absolutely.
Thank you. We have a supplementary response from Acting Director Marsh.
For sure. I just wanted to add to your comments, echo everything that you say, certainly, but also to highlight the notion in the report, it's around mental health. And we do know that those who suffer from mental health situations are very hesitant to speak up. So these students may have very caring, engaged relationships with adults in the school. But what we're trying to invite is the notion that it's okay to talk about mental health, and that is a little bit different than the connection that they might have developed already with the adults in the school. So I think targeting that, because the research does show people are very hesitant to acknowledge it when they are struggling with their mental wellness.
Thank you. I see no questions, so I will take a moment and just make a couple of observations about this that I think are timely and important. So last week there was a Mental Health Association article that came out that said the wait for child and youth mental health services in Durham was 827 days. And in light of that, I'm a little bit concerned. Well, I'm more than a little bit concerned, and we all should be, for that kind of wait for child and youth mental health services. But here's the part that concerns me about some of this. If we're asking people for help, we need to be clear that our staff know where to send them for help that is effective, timely, and useful help. And I don't know if we've rolled out a program to train staff in terms of what's available, because it isn't helpful to refer to somebody where they're going to wait 900 days. And I recognize that that requires some ongoing work on our part to understand the scope of what is available and what isn't. And I know that we must do that in Superintendent McCauley's department and others, but it just seems to me that if we're going to encourage people to come forward, it's a little bit like Bell Let's Talk, right? It's easy to talk about it, but if you don't do anything about it, then the problem doesn't get addressed. So if you're just out there laying it out with no response to address the underlying mental health concern that you're living with, that's worrisome to me. So I'm hopeful that a piece of this is making sure that the staff in our schools actually understand what is available both in the school and outside of the school so that people can make appropriate linkages. Anyone?
Sure, so I'll respond through you, Chair. I think your point around the wait list is something that we're very sensitive to. And so one of the things that we work with our staff in connection to supporting student well-being is the notion that the family doctor is the doorway through to a lot of the assistance that they are seeking. So certainly, while the wait lists are long for specialized help, we do encourage the notion of the family doctor supporting the student. And in fact, many family doctors are filling the void. I know as far as taking regular appointments for students while they wait to get more specialized help. But your point is well taken as far as the services for students or for youth, children and youth.
I think part of my point, though, is that we need to make sure we're communicating that to the staff in the schools, because I don't know that some will know that and some might not, and it just seems to me that it's really important that that information be provided. If that's the pathway right now, because that's the best we've got, I think people need to know that that's the pathway. So thank you for that. We're going to return to Trustee Morton.
Thank you. I appreciate those comments, but I'm suggesting that we further this conversation at our budget process, which is beginning in 3 weeks' time. Mental health should be a discussion at budget. Could we put that on the agenda?
I think that we can ask Trustee Forbes, who is the chair of budget or finance, to address that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see no further comments or questions. Thank you, Superintendent Davis. That takes us to information item 8D, an OPSPA report from Trustee Edwards.
Just the Board of Directors met on February 21st and 22nd. We talked about, of course, negotiations, copyright, as well as we had a presentation done from the medical officer in Toronto, Eileen DeVille, around the coronavirus, and basically what she said, the most important thing for all the viruses is wash your hands, and wash your hands. So we got the message very clear that it's important to wash your hands. But just that, again, to remind people that since the SARS incidents a while ago, that processes have and procedures have been put in place, that we've come a lot further in being able to identify this particular virus in a shorter period of time. So that was one of the presentations. We also had a presentation around teachers' qualifications, which was very interesting, and teachers' colleges and the courses available, and that the impact of the 2-year change has had on the diversity and equity for applicants. So that was also a very interesting conversation. And that's my report.
Thank you, Trustee Edwards. I don't see questions, but I have one. I'm not clear on what that means in terms of the 2-year change and the impact on diversity of applicants. Could you explain that a little bit, please?
what happens is Teachers College is now has been changed to 2 years. So therefore, what's happened is that a lot of times, because it is a 2 years, it's more expensive. So then we have an issue around people who can't afford to go for the 2 years. Plus, it also takes longer, if they can, it takes longer for them to go through the course and the courses and so forth. But also around the diversity and the process as far as, again, dealing with social economics, we tend to have less people, of diverse people applying. The numbers have decreased as well. There's also a very strong shortage around French as well. The French course available in French and being offering in French.
Thank you for clarifying that. We'll go to Trustee Barnes.
Oh, wait, sorry, I was just going to add in regards to Trustee Edwards. The 2-year program, they were saying because it has been lengthened, and with the implementation of Regulation 274, there's less diverse applicants applying because there are possibilities of actually going through 2 years, which is an economic strain sometimes, because socioeconomically, but then because it takes so long for them to actually get employed, you have less people that are diverse that are applying to the university.
Thank you for that. Trustee Barrett, no? All right. So we're going to move to item 9, committee reports, equity and diversity ad hoc committee meetings, February 20th, 2020, with Trustee Barnes.
Thank you. So the meeting was held February 20th. We discussed the Compendium for Black Student Success. We explored the workforce census data that had been collected. We talked about how we diversifying our workforce and what that would look like. We are also having an information night on April 2nd, recruitment for diverse applicants. We further discussed the addition of the student representative to the equity committee and discussed the timelines in regards to posting and actually getting that student on the board, on the committee to start the work. The CRRP student and parent information update. We had worked on getting a graphic to go home for parents that they could scan to see what's going on in regards to CRRP toolkit, but the information was so big that we have decided to add it to the website and let parents know that it's there. We have an update from our acting director that talked about the funding around our human rights and equity advisor, who has started the position for this year, and we are further working on implementing other programming with DRPS, Durham Regional Police. Next meeting date is April 16th.
Thank you for your report. Okay, don't see questions. We'll move to item number 10, correspondence, letter from the Ministry of Education, and that will be introduced by Chair Chris Brainey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The letter is on page 35, which everyone can see. I just wanted to share that with board, and that's all I have to say, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, the letter's there for information purposes only. That takes us to 11, other business. I don't believe we have any. So that moves us into adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Trustee Edwards, seconded by Trustee Templeton. No one's voting against that, so thank you for your time. And I appreciate everyone coming out tonight to listen to some of the discussions that were important. Thank you all.